So Gary Vee's an absolute whale in the Web3 world. He's got punks, he's got ape, he's got World of Women, he's launched his own VeeFriends collection and then another book tokens collection on top of that, and he's got a third collection coming this year. Now this world is new, but one thing's for sure, some of his fans have made a lot of money with NFTs. This guy, for example, sold a $1.3 million Ether rock based on a Gary Vee recommendation. But even looks after the little guys. His VeeFriends original 1.0 collection you could have picked up for 0.5 ETH. And now those same ones that you could get for 0.5 ETH are selling for upwards of 20 ETH. A 40x on your money. But I know it seems like everybody who follows Gary Vee is making a bunch of money on their NFTs, but I'm here to set the case straight. I've gone through every single one of Gary Vee's NFT recommendations since February of 2021, and I've found out exactly how much money you would have if you invested in every single one of those recommendations. And what's even better, I've actually found out how much money you would have if you sold after 1 day after his recommendation, 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, or if you just continued to hold it. Because that's the big question on my mind is, Gary Vee has so many fans, so when he recommends something, you know there's about 100,000 people coming to swoop it up. And if you can get early enough, watch our video on how to get a Gary Vee NFT recommendations before anyone else, to know how to get it before anyone else, you can literally just turn around and flip it to his own fans that are coming to try and flip it onto other people. So here is this beautiful sheet. Down the left-hand side, you can see are all his recommendations. We have 19 of them total, from wrapped curio cards, the first ever artwork on the Ethereum blockchain, all the way down to Nfts, which is a very recent NFT collection that absolutely exploded without a Discord or a website. Now, before we go through the results, there are 11 of his recommendations which we've left out of the math for various reasons. You can find those at the bottom of the sheet. Either he's an owner or an advisor in the company, or their charity collections, or sometimes even his recommendation is very, very loose and secondhand and wouldn't really affect the market at all. If you can find an NFT project that Gary has recommended that's not in the sheet, please leave it in the comments below and we'll update this sheet. And of course, if you want to access this sheet, once again, it's in the comments below. Hit that like button while you're down there. That'd be really cool. So next to the name of the project is where he has recommended it at its earliest date. So if we look at wrapped curio cards, right next to him is the earliest date that he recommended that project on Twitter. You can see July 16th. And then next to that, on August 5th, Gary recommended them in his Discord. And you can see the disparity here. You'd actually better off following him on Twitter for this recommendation because you would have got it 3 weeks earlier. And then of course, we're tracking his wallet. And make sure you stay to the end because I have a lot to say about tracking Gary Vee's wallet that could be very profitable for you. Because you can see he bought these wrapped curio cards on June 6th, more than 1 month before he even recommended them on Twitter. Now the big red column is the most interesting column. This was the floor price of the collection when Gary Vee first purchased them. So the floor price of these curio cards was 0.01 Ethereum, which is insanely cheap, especially for the first ever artwork on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, the first price we've got is an important one. 1 day before Gary publicly recommended the project, what was the floor price and the average price? You can see the floor price of the curio cards was actually 0.11 ETH, an 11x from when he actually purchased it. But remember, he hadn't promoted the project yet. It wasn't him that was pumping this one. We'll get to that in a second. And then of course, 1 day after Gary put it out on Twitter, you can see a pump of the floor to 0.14 Ethereum. And then 1 week after, it was back down to 0.08 Ethereum. Is this the Gary Vee effect where everyone crashes in and then all just sell and it goes back to zero? Well, not in this case, because a month after it was back up to 0.24, 3 months after it was up to 0.53, and up to date, which is March 1st, which is when I made this sheet, it's up to 0.40 Ethereum. Now you can see I've gone through and done this for every single project he's recommended, because if you're going to buy his recommendations, should you hold for a day? Should you hold for a week, a month, 3 months, or 10 years? Well, this table might be able to help you out. This would be your potential ROI on each one of Gary Vee's recommendations. So let's have a look at the second column, World of Women. When Gary bought it, obviously, it was the same price as he bought it at. 1 day before he recommended it, it was still the same price. 1 day after Gary Vee recommended World of Women, it was actually down a 25% drop in their floor. But here comes the crowd. 1 week after, it was up 350%. 1 month after, it was up almost 2,400%. 3 months after, 2,088%. And up to date, you would be up almost 11,000% on your money if you bought a World of Women at the same time as Gary Vee. And strangely enough, be up more than that if you bought exactly when Gary Vee recommended it. But don't go following his advice so blindly, because have a look at this. Plasma bears. Gary Vee seems to have bought this one when it was already pumping, because from the time that he bought it up until one day before he recommended it, he was actually down 73% on the floor. But of course, who comes to his rescue but his own fans? After he promoted this OG project, the floor was up 108% from where he bought it from. After 1 week, it was 50% up. After 1 month, it was almost 200% up. But if you held on 3 months and all the way up until March 1st, you'd be in the negative, both 16% down and 19% down. So you can't blindly follow his recommendation. This is where I've made this beautiful graph for us, because I want to know if we did every single one of Gary Vee's recommendations, what sort of result would we get? Do the world of women make up for the plasma bears? Do the ones that absolutely skyrocket through the atmosphere take care of the ones that plunge into the depths of hell? Well, here's your answer. In this white dotted line is the average return on your money based on how long it's been since Gary Vee's recommendation. So obviously when Gary buys it, it's gonna be at a 0% because that's our baseline price, which we want that to be our baseline price too. So once again, stay to the end. I'll show you something about his wallet. You can see 1 day, it's already on average across all of these projects up 67%. That's a really good return on your investment. But there's a big caveat here, which is Curio Cards is really skewing this data because he waited so long until he promoted it. So really it's about a 17% increase if you copy trade his wallet and sell the day before he promotes, which just don't sell before he promotes it. 1 day after he promotes it, you're on average up 309% on your money. That's an insane amount in anything but Web3. Imagine if the S&P 500 was up 309% in 1 day. It'd just be bonkers. Absolute bonkers. Are you better off selling after a day, taking your profit from all those Gary Vee followers who are coming in to flip after you? Or should you hold on for that week? Well, the data on average says you should hold on for that week. You'd be up 530%. But once again, you have to be careful of the outliers because Crypto Skulls, the OG undiscovered project, which really isn't that OG. Because if you take out the data with those Crypto Skulls, you're actually better flipping it in just a day. But what happens when we get into the 1 month and the 3 months and then the longest possible columns? Is it better off to flip in a day or should you hold? Well, funny enough, after 1 month, on average, you're up 634%, more than double what you're up after a day on average. Looking good for Gary. And in fact, only 4 out of the 19 projects that he promoted were down after a month. And 3 months after, you're up 882% on your money. And of course, the big reveal, if you hold on as long as possible, because Gary Vee's always like, this is 10-year vision. We're not selling this. We're diamond handing it to the end. We're focusing on the long term. You're up 1,315%. Obviously extremely skewed by the world of women. And if you take that out, you may be better off selling at 3 months, but this really does support Gary Vee's argument that he's here for the long term and he's looking at long-term projects, because the more we're expanding this time horizon, you can see the better returns on average that we're getting. Now, the takeaway here is if you bought when Gary Vee buys, you're up 1,300%. But if you bought later in the day after Gary Vee recommended it, you'd be barely up 300% on your money. And especially recently, because Gary Vee is promoting less and less tokens, how do we actually know when Gary Vee is buying? Well, he actually has 2 wallets to watch. One is his Gary Vee wallet, which is his more public wallet, which most people know about. But he actually has a second wallet called his Kennedy wallet, which apparently is his original name. We'll leave a link to both wallets in the description below with a video where we show you how to track his wallet so you can get an alert when he makes a purchase in either of them. I hope this was helpful. Please hit the subscribe button before you go if you enjoyed this. We got some awesome content planned for you in the future. I'll see you in the next one.